the arena of innovation, remember, you're not alone. You're in good company. So let's explore these stories of transformation and take the first steps together on our path to purpose. Let's begin. Welcome, everybody. I'm your host, Adam Peters. This is a strategic veteran, and today we have a compelling guest whose journey embodies resilience, leadership, and a deep commitment to his fellow veterans. Joining us is Christopher Phillips, a former staff sergeant in the Army with 11 years of service under his belt. Christopher's military career was defined by his relentless pursuit to be the best leader in his platoon, always striving to set the standard and inspire those around him. Since leaving the military, Christopher has continued his mission to serve by founding QRF Fit, a nonprofit organization dedicated to supporting veterans through physical fitness and mental resilience. Driven by a profound sense of loyalty and trust, Christopher's work aims to prevent the struggles he's seen too many of his fellow veterans face. He's dedicated himself to expanding his reach and impact with aspirations to make QRF Fit a global force for good. Today, Christopher will share with us his transition from military life to entrepreneurship, the challenges he faced along the way, and his unwavering commitment to helping veterans reclaim their lives through strength, resilience, and community. So let's dive in and warmly welcome Christopher Phillips, a true embodiment of what it means to be a strategic veteran. Chris, brother, thanks for being here, man.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. A long time coming. We keep talking about doing it. And
I know.
Here, huh?
Yeah, man. We got connected through my first guest, Rich, who is also he's your like head guy, right?
He's the head guy now. Originally, it was just me in a vision and all that and trying to do it all. And then I ended up getting a full-time job, and it's kind of hard working nights. So he offered to come on, and I said, please help me.
Yeah, he's such a great dude, man, and he's such a smart guy. And so he connected us shortly after I did the episode with him, and I know just our schedules have never aligned. And then the sunroof gets in the way. But dude, let's just jump right in. Like, you served 11 years in the Army and you reached staff sergeant. It's really similar to my career. I did almost 13, and was also a staff sergeant when I got out. So can you take us back to the beginning? Like, what inspired you to join and why the Army?
So in 2004, I got straight out of high school. I was living in campsites with my parents, and I was either college or go to the Army in a sense. And I was like, well, my family growing up, a bunch of drug addicts, a bunch of alcoholics. I said, well, if I join the Army, I can only do one of those things. So, and plus, serve my country. Who doesn't want to do that? And I said, I want to be in it. So what job does it? And they said, infantry. I said, hey, sign me up. So 3 months later, my recruiter picked me up from our campsite. That was like 3 hours away. Took me to San Jose, and then from there flew to Georgia and did OSET, like August to December. So did that, loved it, ended up getting stationed at Fort Hood first, did my, first of 4 deployments, and then did 2 to Iraq, 2 to Afghanistan, and set the standard, loved it, wouldn't change it for the world, wish I could have stayed and done my 20, but, some stuff happened, which we'll get on to and talk nitty gritty about, so yeah, that's why I really joined, just to serve.
So you, like me, are a rare breed of infantrymen who did 4. Right. Like unless you're special operations and they're much shorter deployments, you don't hear a lot of guys that had 4 deployments like we did. I had 3 to Iraq and 1 to Afghanistan. You were 2 and 2. What units did you do those deployments with?
2 of them, actually, no, 3 were with 4th ID, because we did the old station at Fort Hood, deployed, I think it was twice. And then they said, hey, you can either stay at Hood or go to Carson with 4th ID as a whole unit move. And I said, well, I'll stay at Hood. And the Army said, no, you're going to Carson. So I went to Carson, and then I was about 8 years in. I called, branch and said, hey, I'm tired of 4th ID. I need to get out and do something else. And they said, well, we got Bliss. And I said, what is in Fort Bliss? And it was a 1st Armor, but a striker unit. So I said, you know what? Yeah, let's go do it. And went to Fort Bliss, and it wasn't actually as bad as I thought it would be. It actually had real good training, so I can't complain. And that's where I did my 4th deployment. We're in the South Zari district. Still can't find where I was because it's hidden.
I hear you, man. So were you a Bradley guy?
Originally, I was a Bradley, and then I went to the gunner, and then we went light infantry.
Okay. Yeah, dude, it's so interesting. We've never met before until today, and I did 3 with the 3rd ID on Bradley's, and then I PCS up to Lewis to strikers. And dude, I don't know how it was for you, but But when you got to the striker unit, were you kind of blown away that they didn't know how to use the strikers?
Yes, I was really blown away. And then the movements and all that, I'm like, well, why aren't we doing it just like we do Bradley's in a sense? Because some of the movements are very similar, and they're actually a little bit more agile than Bradley's and a lot more comfortable when you're dismounting. So
Yeah, I always wondered that. I was like, you guys give us a whole bunch of shit about being Bradley guys when you get to a striker unit. It's just nonstop. It's relentless. Oh, you fat mechanized guys, you guys don't know shit about being infantry. And it's like you go to the field with them for the first time, and you're like, you guys don't know shit about using vehicles to assault an objective or get you even close to the objective. I remember they wanted us to dismount and do like 6K movements, and I'm like, why do we have these? Like, why don't we just be light?
yeah, yes.
That's awesome, man. You mentioned leadership was a significant part of your military journey, and I'm sure that carries over into the work that you're doing now. So, can you talk about some pivotal moments from your career where you realized the impact of being a strong leader within your platoon?
Man, it's the camaraderie and that just like people looking at like, what do we need to do? And you're just having to divulge and just say, hey, look, trust me, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to throw you on my back and we're going to carry through this mission. Just let's do it. And I loved that. That's what gets me going. That's what made me feel like important in a sense, because when I was like a private, PFC, I really was like, oh, I'm just going to do my job. And I was going to get in, get out. Actually, it wasn't even to stay in for that long. But then I just started seeing certain leaders that I wanted to, put some of the tools in my tool bag. And then some you're like, oh, I never want to be like this kind of person. And then when like re-up came around, I'm like, you know what? I would rather have this. I'd rather be a leader than this guy. So let me try. And then next thing you know, that leadership just came out of me, and I loved it. And I can't get enough of it. Even to this day, I love being a leader. And work. It's a lot different going into work in a civilian sector where you can't tell people, hey, just shut up and do what I tell you. You have to kind of be professional and have tact. So
Well, and that shut up and do what I tell you, that's like the classic toxic leadership trait, right? Like
yes,
it's I saw a lot when I was in the Army, and we were in the same time, so I'm sure you saw a lot too. And I resonate with what you're saying, right? Like you don't realize that you're doing it when you're in, but from day one you start looking at those bad and good things from varying leaders, and you just immediately, something in you starts to tell you like, okay, I want to be like that guy, and I don't want to be like that guy. You know what I
yes,
mean? And I think that's a rare ability, because the more people I talk to, like, it seems like good leaders innately pick up on that, but then there's the others that are like, well, this guy, he got away with it, so I'm just going to follow in his footsteps and be a shit like he was. You know what I mean? Like, insane to me. And I'm curious, in your intro, I talked about you wanting to be the best leader in your platoon, and then you talked about growing up, right? Like the drugs and the alcohol that surrounded you. How did you develop this self-awareness to know that, the Army, you can't be doing the drugs and the alcohol thing, and that's not a life that you want? But also, how did you really realize, like, I want to be the best? Like, because I didn't come in like wanting to be the best. I came in like wanting to, I don't know, just experience something new and figure out what it was all about. But I didn't really have any aspirations to be the best. I just kind of wanted to figure it out. So, like, how did that come about for you?
I think playing sports had a big impact. I think too. Playing sports, being on my own in a sense. Like I used to thinking about now, kids don't do it these days, but I used to ride my bike 4 or 5 miles to baseball practice, and that was normal at the age of 10. So I always had that going and driving to do things. And then when I got to high school, I was still playing baseball was my main sport, and I loved it. And then I think a lot of it had to just do with my upbringing, how I was like, I don't want this life. I do not want to be this person that my family is, in a sense. Not to talk bad about my family. I love my parents and that, but my cousins, no one like even had a job for more than 5 years, didn't go to college. Just a lot of things that we didn't see as a child that I'm like, I want to do those things to be different. And then when I joined the Army, that kind of helped. It gave me my own place, food on the table, and meeting people that are now my family. That I was like, holy crap, this family has more of an impact than the family when I was before the military. Like to this day, I talk to more military people than I do my own family still to this day. And I love that. And that's what drove me to be just the better leader too, is knowing that these people are going to have an impact for the rest of my life.
For sure, dude. And I'm so proud of you. I know that sounds strange since we just met, but like
Yeah.
the ability for you to recognize that the drugs and the alcohol growing up is not a life that you wanted to live, and make that change for yourself. That's not common, right? That's really not common. Like it's really easy to fall into that hole and really piss your life away. So like it's an honor to know you for doing that. Let's start to move into the juicy part of this conversation. What happened to you? I assume with 4 deployments, it's a lot like my story. You ended up getting hurt and you get med boarded out, and it's time to get out against your will. I feel like you were probably a career guy, whether you want to admit it or not. I didn't come in initially as a career guy either. I signed a 6-year contract knowing that at the end of 6 years, I would know if it was for me or not. And then reenlisted 2 more times, and I actually didn't realize that I was doing myself a favor at the time, because I would have still had 1 more bonus eligible enlistment had I stayed in before I went in def, which was the best way I could have ever played that, even though I never got a bonus the entire time I was in the damn Army. But I'm curious, like, what happened to you to get you to the transition out of the military? And then we'll move into your transition, because I'm fairly certain with the work that you're doing now, there was a lot of challenges you faced in your transition, just like all of us do.
So I was 11 years in. I was a squad leader, and then we were getting my squad ready to to go back out to the field, just a normal routine out in the field, FTX, and I was eating, drinking my drink, and then next thing you know, I fell over. Like that's literally all I remember is going for like those old lockers that you have in the in the cough,
Yeah,
and I fell face first. Like came
just face
about,
planted.
had a bloody nose, and my team leaders and my Joes were like, hey, Sergeant Phillips, don't get up. Whatever you do, just don't get up. We need to get a medic over here. So then the medics came over. They walked me straight to the aid station. They said, hey, we think you might have had a seizure. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I was in the best shape of my life. Like, I'm like,
What the fuck? I
no,
had a seizure. Are you kidding me?
yeah, no way. So they're like, hey, we think you had either a seizure or a stroke. We don't know yet. So you need to go to the ER. And I said, well, do I have to go? And they go,
Physical infantry response.
they go, yes. And now we're going to have to escort you. And, of course, I started walking out. And my first sergeant's like, if you want to get out of the field, you could have just told me, Phil. I was like, whatever, first sergeant. Joking, thinking there's nothing to it. So, anyways, I went to ER, and they said, hey, you're going to go follow up with a cardiologist on Monday. So, went there to the cardiologist. They said, hey, you're going to wear this heart monitor. This was on a Friday. They said, you're going to wear it for 30 days. So as soon as he told me 30 days, I'm like, okay, no big deal. Like 30 days, they're not worried about me. I'm not being impatient. So we're good. Monday morning, I'm doing PT, running our normal 5 miles, on a Monday, getting the stuff out of everybody's system, making them puke, whatever it takes, And I have a voicemail. I'm like, who the heck is calling me this early? And it was the good old cardiologist saying, hey, you need to come in, give us a call when you get this. So I called and they said, hey, you need to get here. So I got there, and the cardiologist was like, hey, where's your family at? And I said, what do you mean? I'm just here because you told me to get here. And he's like, we're going to have to place a pacemaker in you. Your heart randomly stops 3 to 5 seconds. Have you ever had this feeling? I said, I've had this for like 5 years,
Typical infantry guy. Yep.
They go, well, this is your heart basically telling you, hey, in a sense, hey, retard, you need to take care of yourself. So I was getting a pacemaker. They said I couldn't get a second opinion because I was military property. They got to do what's best for you. And then from there, I'm like, okay. And then about those 2 weeks after the surgery, I have some civilian come up to me. And he goes, hey, are you Sergeant Phillips? I said, yes, sir, I'm Sergeant Phillips. He goes, you're going to start the med board process next week. And I said, excuse me? And he goes, you had surgery, right? You have a pacemaker, blah, blah. I was like, yeah. He's like, you're, non-deployable. You're done. I was like, oh, wow. What a way to find out. So I went and had to have a sit down with my first sergeant, my platoon sergeant. And I kind of started bawling because the military was all I knew and what I loved. And you're taking, like, it's like right now I'm getting a tingling sensation just talking about it, because I'm just like, it took so much out of me. It deflated the shit out of me, basically, to where I'm like, what am I going to do? This is all I know. I can't even go to the police department, the fire department. So anything I wanted to do when I got out, I can't even do anymore because of health. And I couldn't believe it.
I had a similar story, not my heart, fortunately, or unfortunately, whatever, however you want to look at it, but it was the same story. I had 2 shoulder surgeries. The first one, was training up to go to JRTC rotation and got into a pissing match with young 18-year-olds. And
Yeah.
pull-ups are my favorite exercise on the planet to this day. You can ask John. John's my coach through your program. So
Oh, okay.
ask John how much I like pull-ups. I specifically asked him to build pull-ups into my routine, and there's a pull-up bar in my garage mounted to the ceiling that I just randomly go out there and knock out pull-ups. But I prided myself on, as a 250-pound man, being able to do muscle ups and pull myself up. So after I got off that first shoulder surgery, I had some smart ass privates like, "Oh, Sergeant Peters, you can't hang." And I'm like, "Oh, I'm gonna show you motherfuckers, right? Like, this is my exercise." I get up there and I get to like 9 and it just rips again completely. So I have the second surgery. And the surgeon's like, "Okay, like, this is going to be rough, but you're going to stay in this sling for like 6 months. You're not going to take it out. You're not going to move it." 2 days or whatever, 10 days after surgery, go to get the stitches out. And this major takes my arm out of the sling and yanks down on my shoulder. And like, didn't read the file or anything. And I knew right then and there my career was over. I saw the surgeon in the hallway, told him what happened. He's like, "Dude, you're done. You can't be an infantry guy anymore." And like you, dude, like my whole world exploded. It's like, I was 17 years old when I joined. I'm 30 now. Like, what do I do? And so I'm curious, like, that's challenge number 1, right? When you're getting out and transitioning, the first challenge is loss of identity and purpose. We are so wrapped up in that. We have no idea who we are. Is that what you experienced?
Yes, drastically. It went to, I was an occasional drinker, to I couldn't stop drinking, and I plummeted. I stopped health. I was like, you know what? I stayed healthy for this long, and look what it got me, a pacemaker. So I was like, let me test this pacemaker out. And I was eating whatever I wanted, Whataburger, Sonic, all the fattening, bad, horrible stuff, and then just drinking and, taking the good old veteran, here, take these pills, let's take these pills, see what happens. I started getting bigger, my body, I could tell, I could see it. And it was about I got out in October, but I was basically out since July, because my platoon sergeant's like, "Chris, just call me, let me know you're alive." He's like, "Your world's about to change." And I never thought about it either. And to this day, I still talk to him. I say, "I still can't get over, I should have took you more serious when you said, when I get out, no one cares," because it's still like, holy moly. So anyways, it was December, about first or second week, I went out drinking, and I drank a lot more than I should have, more than likely. And I was living with a friend. He's like, "Hey, dude, I have an extra room." He was one of the old squad leaders. He's like, "There's nothing in there." So basically, I had a twin mattress. I had a little box as an end table. And then for my TV, I had an old tough box. So it looked like a bum lived there in a sense, And I got home drinking and looked at my pill bottles and said, "You know what? I don't want to live anymore." And I took it, went to sleep, apparently had a night terror. My friend came in the room, shook me because he saw the pill bottles, and then his wife was a nurse in the ER. And he called her, said, "Hey," this is what he tells me because I don't remember it. He goes, "Hey, Phil did this. Phil did this. I can't believe it. He can't die in our house." And she kind of told him a little thing to do, to get everything out of my system, and had some IVs at the house. And about 2 days, I finally recovered it. And I couldn't get over it. I couldn't believe it, because I was at 305 pounds when I was 230 maybe in the Army, but the best shape. And this was like a 305 bad shape. Like, my body just people used to say, Chris, it looks like you ate yourself twice, is what people used to tell me.
Fucking squishy. Dude, I relate to what you're saying. So for those listening, like the whole entire point of this show is to show you that you're not alone in what you're going through. And I want this to serve as an example. Chris and I have almost literally the same story. Day one, career is over. Day two, here's the bottle of whiskey, and I'm pouring it down my throat to no end. The only difference between me and Chris is I didn't have the pills. I was just content with killing myself with alcohol. But I did the same thing, man. I went from 250 to 285 to 295 to, at its culmination, my heaviest was 311 pounds. And I was a squishy 311 pounds, lying to myself, oh, you're still strong. You're still big, right? Like, you got all these people in your life who tell you, oh, you really don't look that bad for 311 pounds. And it's like, man, I look at pictures of myself now and I'm like, no, like, you weren't good. No color in my skin because the alcohol is just destroying me. Like, what an awful, awful situation. And like I said, I just didn't have the pills, but I also had that kind of that will to not want to live anymore. I was waking up every day questioning, like,
Yeah.
what am I even doing here?
Yeah. Yeah. I was going to college just to make sure I was getting money from, the VA still, because I was trying to double dip a little bit and had nothing. And I was just like, what am I going to do with my life? Like, this is all I knew. And it just was taken from me in a sense. And still to this day, I get angry thinking about it. I'm happy. I'm in a happy part of my life, the good old QRF program, things like that going, working, having a family, 3 little boys that are keeping me up now. So those things are wonderful. I'm glad when I did attempt, I failed. At the time, I'm like, man, I can't even do this right. But now I'm like, now I'm like, okay, I'm good. I love my life. I live in Arizona. I'm happy, so I can't complain about that portion. But yeah, it was a big eye opener.
Well, and you alluded to something in a previous statement. You said, one of the leaders in your company was like, man, I wish that I would have listened to you more, because like, this is over. And the Army genuinely doesn't care about you the second you enter that med board process. I know you experienced this because you just alluded to it, and I experienced this also. And hindsight being 2020, I had a really good first sergeant at the time who kicked me over to range control, and then some stuff happened, and shit gets lost in digital land between Medboard and Big Army back in 2015. Not uncommon to sit around for 18 months just waiting for orders. And I had worked out this deal with my first sergeant. He's like, dude, you need to take this time to figure out what you're going to do with your life. And I didn't do that. I just wallowed in it, and I doubled down on the drinking. So I was out every night, 7 nights a week, drinking at the house before I'd go to the bar, closing the bar down, and continuing to drink after the bar closed. And I wish that I would have listened to First Sergeant Pittman at the time and been like, you only need to show up Monday morning and answer the phone if I call you. He's like, I'm not going to call you, but I also am not going to put you anywhere in this company as a senior staff sergeant under other E5s or something like that. He's like, I'm going to give you the time you need to go figure out what you're going to do with your life. I didn't do that. I didn't take advantage of it. I doubled down on the drinking. Did you do the same thing?
Yes. Yes. And it's funny because you said 2015. That's the same year I was med boarded out.
What's your retirement date?
It was October 20th, 2015.
Literally 2 weeks before me. I was November 2nd, 2015.
It was the fastest they said they've seen anyone med board. They're like, I started the process, I think it was, so I got the pacemaker in like March or April. I can't remember. My card tells me. And then I was out like with my retirement papers, all that, giving me the final date by July. Like it was so fast. Like even my first sergeant was like, holy crap, they're not playing around with you. And yeah, I had a great first sergeant, had a great sergeant major. Like he came into the hospital and saw me and said, what the heck, And then my platoon sergeant's the one that kind of said, hey, take care of yourself. Millette, his platoon sergeant Millette, he had a career. He retired out, but to this day, like I said, we still talk. I have the truck I bought from him in my garage because I bought a '69 from him. And he said, yeah, when he said that, I didn't take it serious. I'm like, whatever, man. You don't know. I'm gonna freaking drink, and thought Jack had my back, so I was drinking the single barrel Jack like it was nothing, And then if they had a special that night, so I pregame like you, go pregame, and then from there, Hey, we have a special, dollar this, dollar that, Jaeger bombs, whatever. Even if it was disgusting, I'm like, I don't care.
Yeah,
I
man.
need to get this in my system.
Dude, so having said all of this, this is what I call the transition hole. And I think you would agree, like it's definitely a deep, dark hole that you fall into because of the transition. So you and I having such similar transitions and talking about this and being given time to go figure out what we should have been doing, which we didn't do, we just doubled down. What would you do differently now? What are some of the things that you would have done that would have better prepared you and made your transition easier, do you think? Or do you know?
I think as soon as I knew that for sure I was getting out, what in March, April, I would have probably actually started college faster and figured out what degree is going to help me the most because I kind of started that later on. I went to automotive performance school as soon as I got out of the Army just because I liked going fast and I wanted to learn how to work on vehicles. But I would have actually started my bachelor's to get into my master's so I wouldn't have to pay anything out of college later on when I got my bachelor's degree. So I probably would have started my degree a lot earlier and just started to figure out exactly kind of what I wanted to get into. Because right now, like I'm a supervisor in the semiconductor industry, so the wafer chips that everybody's complaining about on cars and transmissions. I supervise the night shift, 5 p.m. to 5 a.m. and I love it because once again, it gives me that team. I have 4 areas, 20 people, and I love it. Like I'm motivating them, going over there, being a guy. Just the leadership you had in the military kind of makes you who you are in the outside sector. There's certain things you do change, certain ways you can talk to people, certain things you can't do, and I understand that. It took me a little bit, and it kind of molded me. The military molded me into the kind of leader I am to this day, and I love it. My team seems to love it because I have open dialect with them and said, "Hey, what do you want better? What can I do better for you guys? What would make how could I benefit you in a sense?" And from there, like I just get good stuff, and that's what makes me feel like I'm accomplished. Because if there's problems or if there's a lot of things I wasn't seeing, then hey, I shouldn't be a leader then.
Yeah, I feel that, man, because that's one of the things that I would have done too. I waited till terminal leave was over and I had actually the blue ID card before I even looked at college as an option. And like I said, I had a really long med board process. So hindsight again, 2020, 18 months was a long time that I could have been working on a lot of different things for myself because I had the time. I just didn't have the wherewithal to get out of my own way and actually go make something happen for myself. So I appreciate you sharing that with us. How did you land on QRF Fit? And when did you decide that helping veterans was your new mission? Like what brought all of that about?
So when I was in the service, we had soldiers kill themselves. Horrible, like things you didn't want to think of or you didn't want to see, in a sense. And when I was getting out, same thing was going on. People were taking their own lives that accomplished that mission that they did. And in 2019, I was heading to the gym, to a CrossFit gym, and I kept getting pinged on my Facebook. Hey, can't believe it. What's going on? No, he didn't. And I got on there, and it was a soldier named Sorensen. I talked to his mom a while back after I found out he attempted. I told her what I was doing, and he's one of the big reasons why I kind of started it. And she said, "Well, thank you. Can you tell me a little bit about her son?" And I did, and I just get chills right now just thinking about it. And from there, it made me think about all the other soldiers I lost. And this isn't just saying soldiers, period. This is people I trained, deployed with. These are like within the company that I was in. And when he took his, I think that's when it finally. I was at the gym and I was talking to the owner, and he's like, "We just don't do enough for veterans." And I said, "We don't." I was like, "We have companies that do a lot of great things. There's a lot of nonprofits that do a lot of great things, but I really don't know what they do, where the money was going." And I said, "How can I be different than all these other companies?" And I said, Look, I love fitness. A lot of veterans like fitness, you know, and the gyms, a lot of the community-based gyms are kind of like a tight-knit family. They check on people. They call you out. Hey, you haven't came in a week. What's going on? Get here on this workout. And I liked that. So from there, COVID happened. I got laid off because they started taking half the management away from the aerospace company I was working for, and they cut half management. I was gone. So I was like, okay, well, maybe this is I had my bachelor's degree in business. I said, well, maybe this is my time to start. And it was literally kind of like the military, shoot from the hip. Nonprofit, knew nothing about it, how to do it, started, messing with the bylaws, putting in my mission, vision, which is totally different to what Rich and I have now, the mission and vision, because he made it a lot better than it was when it originally started. Like, the basics was awesome. We loved it. Rich loved it. That's what brought him and I together to do events and talk about it. But anyways, so after he took his life, that's when the pivotal moment for me to start QRF. And I got it going within, I want to say, 6 to 8 months, and had the name QRF. And I said, how could I do a play on words? Quick reaction force. Okay, quality for the, quality of the soldier, resilience, getting back up from being down, and then fitness, using the fitness realm. I was like, heck yeah, QRF. People might get irritated, but I really don't care, because at least they'll remember what QRF stands for. And then I did the old look at what QRF is. Does anybody have a company out there? And at that time, I didn't see it. So I was like, well, I'll keep it Quality Resilience Fitness so it stays long, but then for short will be QRF. And then to this day, I think Rich and I always go QRF now, because it's good, it's catchy, and it's helping the veterans. But there's a lot of, like I said, there's a lot, geez, it's dark. It's dark from what, people that killed themselves, people that hung themselves in a barracks room. Like, I still, like, I opened up to my wife one day, because we got married after the military. And I told her, I was like, hon, I just can't get over some of the things I've seen. And I think when Sorensen finally did it, I kind of said, you know what, screw this. Let me do something. This is what I'm going to do. If it succeeds, amazing. If it doesn't, at least I tried, and I can do what I do. If I help 5 soldiers, that's better than none, and was my mentality. And then I think it was like 2 years ago, Rich sat down with me. He's like, hey, Chris, QRF could be going, a lot bigger than it is. What's going on? I said, well, I have a full-time job now, and I work night shift. I thought this would help me, but it's not. I'm trying to get on day shift. He's like, well, I'd like to help you out. And when that happened, you get scared, because you're like, oh, man, I started this puppy, and now I'm going to relinquish this to someone else that might not have the same desire and the same mindset that I have. But hey, he was 11 Alpha, I was 11 Bravo, so I'm like, hey, this must be a cool story to have. So he took the realm and started looking into a lot more stuff on the nonprofit sector, and he's made it boom a lot.
How did you get hooked up? I assume, did you meet Rich at his gym?
So COVID happened. All the gyms were closing down. I was still contacting gyms, because I'm like, this is the perfect time. So as soon as COVID doesn't have, like, it gets released finally, where everybody can go back to working out, I will have gyms to do events at. So I had 7, 8 gyms that I had ready to do events. And my first strongman was at Rich's gym, Liberty Performance. And him and I started talking, and he's like, man, dude, your story, like, that's what, because I told people my story. And it's funny that we talk about my story, because I never told it to anyone. For 5 years. It took in 2019, when Sorensen when he took his life, and then we had a Murph. I think it was like in March the next year. They're like, hey, Chris, we'd love for you to tell your story and pick a nonprofit for the money to go to. I picked a nonprofit to go to, and another reason why I kind of did it is I didn't like the communication. It made me feel like I was just another person giving someone money, and they can care less who I was. And that's what kind of made me also want to do the QRF, is I was like, I don't want anyone that's giving us money to feel the way I felt with them. That's like, I want to be the total opposite of what they're doing. And that's what kind of made the QRF thing too as well. So there are a lot of factors into it. But anyways, I told my story for the first time, and I had to tell my parents, "Hey, you guys are going to hear this?" Because my parents never heard about this what I did. And I said, "I just want to let you know." And my mom just started bawling. She's like, "Chris, I didn't know you're going through this. And why didn't you just come to Colorado?" Because they moved to Colorado. And I said, "You're my parents. I don't want to move in with you guys. Like, I've been on my own for 11 plus years. I'm not moving with you guys." And from there, I told my story. And afterwards, after the event, people just came up to me and said, "Hey, Chris, just thank you for telling your story." Like, people were bawling. It was my first time telling my story. So I was, doing the old, and,
It's so it's so funny because telling your story opens so many doors. You have no idea, right? I had no idea that telling my story would impact as many people as it has.
yeah, you're being vulnerable because you don't want it.
And to your point, right? Like, I think largely my family doesn't know a lot of where I was mentally or emotionally coming out. Even to this day, we haven't sat down and actually talked about it. What they're getting is listening to this show, if they do listen, or the work that I do now. They start to understand, right? Like, but it's just not something that we ever. I think we're just scared to face it ourselves. I think that's really what it comes down to. Is like, there's an element of being embarrassed about the shit that you've lived through and how you handle it in your head, and you make up this narrative in your head that, like, I think stops us from telling that story. And then I remember the first time I told my story, I was like, holy shit, I feel so much better. Like, I feel so much better. And I'm sure that's kind of how it went for you.
It felt better, but also felt like, oh my God, everybody knows now. Everybody's going to judge me. What am I going to do now? Like,
Yeah.
I'm not the
Yeah.
same person everybody thought I was. Everybody thought of, Sergeant Phillips, the hardcore, can't get him down. And I was at my most vulnerable spot of my career within 3 months of getting out. And to this day, it's still, people don't get that. Like you said, when people get out, they don't think of these things. They don't know the impact. Some people get out there, okay, they're cool, whatever. But then you have those people that were hardcore, dedicated. I'm going to do 20, even though I don't think I am, because that's just like you. You said you did 6. My initial was 3. Then I re-upped every 3 years in a sense. And then my next re-up was my in-depth. I couldn't wait. And then that happened. So, for the career people that didn't make it, it kind of hits them like, holy crap. And then you also, like, I was thinking, what am I going to do when I get out? And they're literally all the hardcore jobs I wanted when I got out, I couldn't do because it took it away. The pacemaker took that away. It's like, you're going to have to do a job you never thought you would do in your career. What's it
Yeah.
going to be?
Yeah. I hear you, man. Dude, so running a nonprofit comes with its own set of challenges. What has been the most significant obstacle you faced in building QRF, and how did you overcome it?
Oh, I think the biggest obstacle was finding the right people to partner with and to trust in what gyms to work with and what gyms not to. Because some gyms really did, kind of like that nonprofit I was talking about. They don't care. They just want business. And if you're bringing in money, you're bringing in money. And then I went to one CrossFit gym. Because I did CrossFit, strongman, and powerlifting. Those are my big gyms I go to that are community based. And now we're trying to venture off because I've always wanted to do rucks, things like that, team building. I want to do a big team CrossFit event, things like that. But man, that was the hardest thing. But I went to this gym, CrossFit Radho, and started talking to him and his wife. And then they go, well, Chris, when it comes down to it, how much do we have to fundraise to make you have an event at our gym? And I said, what are you talking about? And they said, well, some nonprofits make you say you're going to have $2,000 in donations before you'll even come do an event. And I said, you guys are hosting this event. If you give me $5, great. If not, oh well, good picture opportunity, video opportunity,
It's
and we
content.
get to work out together.
Yeah.
I said, that's all I really care about. And then that's what I kind of went off of, and that's what I still, in a sense, go off with Rich. I said, Rich, I still want my basics of going and doing some pop-up events, yearly and things like that. And he said, no. He's like, no, that's perfect. He's like, we'll wrap it up and do some other things, but he's like, we can at least keep part of those aspects of it. And the other aspect was helping out veterans with gym memberships, because let's face it, when I was getting out, there was a lot of gyms. They're pricey. You know,
I'm
the
telling you.
strongman, just to go to a gym, usually about $75 a month. Usually, CrossFit, they're kind of pricey. They make you pay for the box. They're about 150 to 200 out here in Arizona a
Same
month.
here. Yeah.
Okay, and then powerlifting, it's about the same as the strongman, 60 to maybe 90 the most. So I said, hey, let's venture off, pay 3 to 6 months of memberships, and then keep a tab on them. And then Rich said, how about we do this? And this is, how we got bigger. He's like, we're going to start doing fitness coaching for him too. First 6 months, we're going to have one-on-ones with them. It'll go weekly until a monthly. And I said, dude, that'd be perfect, because now we're checking on them. We're doing what QRF was meant to be. And he started broadening the knowledge of what QRF can be and do. And I'm like, I agree with it. But then I started seeing I wasn't needed as much. And you're like, oh my God, like what can I do what can I do now? Because QRF is on this such great impact. What can I do to impact it now? And I'm still working through that. Like Richie said, Chris, I just want you to get fitter. He's like, I just want you to start looking the part you need to be. He's like, because I was still gaining weight. I was working out, but I was still eating. I didn't care. And now I've been in that loop where this is probably off topic, but I found out that it's normal for people that were in the military, being infantry, for certain levels to go low, testosterone. And I was like, well, I'm going to go get checked. And they gave me my numbers. They said, dude, you need something, because
what was it? What were your numbers?
190.
Holy shit. I thought I was bad, dude. I was dipping into like the 290s in the
I was at 190, and the good old VA's like, oh, we'll put this topical cream on. And
yeah, okay. Fuck you, buddy. Yeah, that ain't fixing shit.
so I was talking once again, Rich, and Rich is like, hey, dude, I know a doctor. Talk to this, Dr. Sam. She's great. And I went to talk to her about it, and she started knowledge I didn't have. Like, oh yeah, your testosterone grows between 10 p.m. to 2 a.m., but you're at work and you're not sleeping, so you're not getting that growth. And then you work these shifts, so you're automatically always going to be in a handicap, and you're going to continue to see them decline. Which I was like, oh my God, because it went 205, 195, 184. And 184 is when the VA finally said, hey, we're going to give you the topical. And she's like, don't do it, Chris. She's like, you need this. And I'm like, okay. And I think I'm on my first full month of it. And yeah, I'm better. My wife's like, you're better. She's like, around the kids, you're more awake now. You're not so down and tired. And I was like, holy moly. So even that aspect, I'm taking care of myself finally. And I'm happy that Rich, calls me out on things, because he's straight with me. And that's what I told him. I was like, that's what I want. I want you to be straight. And even with, hey, Chris, I need you to do more things for QRF. I'm like, okay, so we're still working the kinks out, because he's in Oklahoma. John is in Nebraska, and I'm in Arizona, and we want to branch off, and we want to do events in Texas, Florida. We want to go far with this. And we already had a big strongman event in what was it, Nebraska, and it went, from what I see and what I heard, it went very well. And I'm happy where QRF is going. I couldn't thank John and Rich enough, because they did an amazing job with it. They brought it from what it was as little, because when they started, I think I had about 600 followers, and now we're in the nines, I think, if I remember right. So they're increasing it. Made the news. That's great. So it's getting there. It's hard, because once again, we talk about stories and you in careers, right? And when you're seeing all these, I don't want to say it, but like these SF people, these Rangers that making these businesses, and they're so, they're so good. They're like, holy crap, they are good companies. And here I am, just a normal infantryman, 11 Bravo, and now I'm trying to make a business, but I don't have all the cool stuff. The cool guys.
Think like that, dude. You can't think like
I know,
that.
But you can't help it sometimes.
Right. Well, and I'm guilty of it as well, particularly, when I was looking for other healing modalities, and how I met Rich was through Heroic Hearts Project on the ayahuasca retreat. That's not a secret here. Everybody that listens to this show, I've talked about that multiple times. But in my hunt to find a nonprofit that would help me facilitate alternative healing modalities, I think Heroic Hearts is one of the only ones that caters to conventional forces, not just special operations forces in the plant medicine space. And again, like met Rich, had that incredibly powerful week, right? In July of last year. And then, moving forward, Rich had talked about on the retreat getting involved with you and QRF Up. And we stayed in touch in our cohort signal group chat and all of that. And I started really significantly making progress. I think when I came on with QRF in March, I had already lost like 60 pounds on my own and have since lost another 40 in your program. And there's so much I want to talk about your program, because I've thoroughly enjoyed it, from having John as a coach to the way he facilitated all of my workouts and my training and all of that, and the grace that he gives me when I just tell him what I'm actually going through. So, like, you've got an awesome program, man. And I love it so much because when I first started this journey, I met a guy, I went on his podcast. His name's Matthew Banco, and he brought attention to, we have a MEPS to get in, but there should be a MEPS to get out. And we use this framework here. And he said that MEPS to get out is 5 areas that you need to work on, right? Mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, and social. And you are covering that physical pillar there. And I want you to talk a little bit about, because your newsletter and all the stuff that I see, all your content talks about the science behind all of this, with the physical exercise and contributing to healing and mental health. So can you talk a little bit about that and how successful it's actually been?
Well, to me, the physical piece, right? Like we said earlier, it's that camaraderie that within people, like if you and I are working out together, we have a group, like that physical aspect is, you still have that mentality where I want to be better than you. Yeah, you might be, a little bit quicker things, but can you lift this? Can you do that? Like I'm always going to find a way to be better than someone. And that's what drives me physically. That's what helps me, oh man, all that adrenaline that you want and all that testosterone you kind of want. It just, to me, fitness realm helps in so many ways. I say it makes you lift the demons, because you're just, you want that headspace to where you're listening to some hardcore music or classical, whatever you like, but that those plates moving, running, whatever you do, like that's releasing so much endorphins in your body that you're just like, oh yeah, I can't wait. This is gonna be a hell of a workout. I can't wait to be done. And that's why I wanted to do it. One, I love it. So why not make a business on something I love? And fitness it's something I love. It's something, when I was in, we had squad comps where I was going against other squads, or, and we loved it. Like, okay, you got to jump over this Connex as a team, jump down, run a mile, do a mile burpees, stupid stuff like that. Like I always had the 1 mile burpee challenge over at Fort Bliss, and just all these things. So why not use it into the fitness realm outside to help people like me? Because let's face it, I need this. And I think that's what kind of helps Rich and John and all of us, is we know we need this. So let's put that on the people that we're talking to and with who they're coaching. Because let's face it, my goal one day is to coach too, but I want to get into that space, know more about it before I get into it. But I want to be able to help the way they do as well. Like I know I'm already helping, but I want to freaking be there and have that one-on-one so they can feel the way I feel when I talk to Rich, because Rich is my coach. And we're always talking about things. And he's like, well, what do you like about the program? And I said, I'll tell you the truth. I love working out, but at that finisher, when I'm doing the sled push, I love the sled push. Like you like pull-ups. I'm like, no, I'll do a sled push, because let's face it, I sucked at pull-ups in the Army too. I was good at the heavy lifting, the crew served weapons, the Bushmaster.
I'm still good at that stuff too. I'm
I
still good
know,
at that
I
stuff
know.
too.
But
But,
pull-ups were not my thing.
right,
Uh,
right.
it
Everybody
was
has their thing though. Everybody I've ever met that works out has that one thing that they just can't get enough of. And for me, it was pull-ups. For you, it's the sled push. And dude, you're absolutely right. Like, when I first came on, I came on in March, the beginning of March, and I was a little kind of nervous because I had just had a back surgery in January, and Rich was completely aware of this, and he really pushed for me to join the program based on the progress I was already making on my own. And this is why I think your program is so amazing, is because John Erickson is my coach, and he's also a strongman athlete, putting on events and out there in Nebraska. He's an amazing dude. And I was nervous because, coming off the back surgery, right? Like, I've dealt with that for years and years and years. And I didn't want to push it, right? Like, but I wanted to maximize your program. And I've been able to do that because John is such an out of the box thinker. I gave him some kind of constraints to play with. Like, sitting here and building my business and doing the nonprofit work that I do has been my focus. And I didn't want to take a lot of time away from that. And I don't have really great gyms around me. Plus, I wasn't really supposed to lift for like the first 8 months. I was really supposed to stick to body weight exercise and stuff like that. And so he comes up with, okay, we're going to do pool PT because I have access to a community pool here. And then he's like, we're going to do a lot of body weight stuff and it's going to get boring and you're not going to want to do it. And he's true. There's days where I'm like, man, it's the same fucking shit over and over again and I don't want to do it. And then yoga, and man, like just those 3 workouts every week has really transformed my physical fit. I would argue I'm in better shape now than I was when I was in the Army. I weigh less. I'm down to 200 and I think I weighed 217 pounds this morning. I've kind of stabilized on my weight loss journey, and now I'm starting to get the itch because we're almost at a year out from surgery to go back to the gym. But one of the other cool things about your program is you either provide 6 months of gym membership for clients, or in my case, because I opted to do the body weight stuff at home, you guys bought me a reverse hyper.
Yep.
What an awesome thing to do, man. That's like, first of all, that piece of equipment is way more than 6 months of a gym membership would have cost. And second of all, like, that's really freaking cool because you're trusting that I'm going to use this equipment. And I do use it pretty regularly. John has to tell me to stop using it so much because I'm going to overtrain. But, that's what's awesome about your program, man. And like, how did you guys arrive at this conclusion? And like, how, I'm sure I'm not the only one who feels this way about your organization. I'm sure your other participants feel the same way. So share some of that with us.
So like I said, we wanted to be different, and we were like, what's going to make us stand out? Gym memberships, great. Sorry if you hear my kid. I have a 10-month-old and he's yelling because he discovered his voice. And we're like, well, there's people that can't go to gyms, that don't have the ability to go to gyms, or they just live in, like we had a guy that's in Pennsylvania that is not close to a gym but does strongman. What can we do? And we said, okay, let's try to partner with certain companies to start getting equipment to the veteran and to help out. And maybe we have like a bundle pack where it's a barbell, sandbag, and plates, because that will take the basics for anyone that wants to do the functional fitness, kind of stuff. And then like what you needed, like that's what we want to be able to do, because if we can't, we're not doing all we can to help veterans out. And like I said, the goal is to help any veteran that's wanting to join the fitness community, to help them out. And some people are like, hey, I really want to go do this event. And you're like, well, what do you want to do? And they go, oh, I want to do Ragnar. Well, how much does it cost? And we find out the membership fees and we pay that, So we're trying to branch to make it our own, where people are starting to replicate what we do. And if people are going to start doing what we do, then that means we started something great. And now we're getting challenged, or we're challenging them to step up. And that's the goal is, hey, step up, help us out. We need help.
Well, I love that your program is not a one size fits all approach to fitness. It's not just, okay, I'm going to have you lift weights 5 days a week and that's what you're going to do. It's like at length conversations with John, my coach. And he's like, I'm so grateful to have picked you up as a coaching client, because you really make me think about how I can be better at coaching, strength training and exercise. And because I had so many constraints, and because, he's given me a lot of grace. Like, there's weeks where I don't do shit because it hurts. And he's like, don't fucking push that, man. He's like, focus on healing. Like, this isn't a tomorrow thing. This is a forever thing. And I can live with that, as long as you approach it that way. And I think it's amazing, man, because one size fits all doesn't work. We see that in so many different industries, to include fitness. And this brings me to like your content with the newsletter and your featured sponsored athletes and other participants in the program, and showcasing the variety of different fitness programs that they're doing. And I think it's awesome, man. I think it's so cool.
Yeah, it is. I love it. And I love what we've become. And like I said, Rich and John have been the big ones on that, like contacting athletes too, especially like it's great. Then your story, like it's wonderful, because who would have thought in 2020 that Chris Phillips would have started a nonprofit? No one could picture it. I never pictured it, because I'm like, I don't want to own a business. It's too much. And and now I have one. Like I told you when we originally started, I was scared as heck, because failure. Who likes failure? No one likes failure. So I started it. Rich and them are helping. It's getting a lot bigger, and we're able to help individuals like you, people that also other people that can't do certain things. Like, we're helping them, and it's like, man, we're awesome. Like, who could say that? Connor, go back.
Hey, buddy. Oh, that's awesome.
Like, we're just doing great things, and I can't complain. I'm happy. Like, if I died tomorrow, I would be happy because of where QRF is, and I know they're in great hands for the future, and I can't complain about that right now. And
I love it, man. Dude, that's so cool. And last point before we let you go, because I'm sure you're ready to go to bed, but you guys just launched yesterday, I believe, the alumni program, correct?
So we've had it a little bit, but then I think we're starting to get bigger on sending alumni the calls out. And I think you guys had one on Friday, and of course I was working, so I'm like, because I want to go on one of them, because I heard the last one went great. There's a company out there. They're called Project Refit. I'll give them a shout out. When I first started QRF, they are big in New Jersey. I think it's called Lift the Stigma, or I think they say F the Stigma, and I chatted with them. I told them what I did, and they kind of liked it. And their founder, so basically the founder, I believe was passed. He passed away. And I was there, I believe, when he passed, because we were in the same unit, I believe, or attached. Like, it was like, what are the odds of this happening? And I kind of told him, like, dude, I knew that guy. He's like, no way. And he was at Bliss and all this. And we just started chatting, and he'd check up with me on months, like, hey, how's the nonprofit going? And I kind of liked that. And they do it to where they do the virtuals every 4 days, I think, out of the week. And now they're starting to build communications going out to places. So they kind of helped QRF in the beginning. And now that we're doing this alumni call, it's like, man, this is pretty cool now, because now I'm getting coached, you're getting coached, there's other people getting coached. We're all getting together talking about how different we're being coached, because like you said, you're different than mine. Mine's more, I want to go lift weights and push a sled because I want to gain power, but also lose weight, there's just so many different aspects. Someone does cross country, ruck marches, climb mountains. Like, there's so many different varieties that we have, and getting together is just, to me, it's awesome, because then you get to see in person all these puzzle pieces and how freaking awesome it is for QRF to say, look what we're doing. This is how we're changing lives. And it's also helping me change my life.
I love it, man. So awesome. Dude, tell everybody how they can connect with you, where they can find QRF, and how can they support you from, if there's coaches out there. Do you guys need more coaches? Do you have the ability to take on more participants? What does all that look like, and where can people find information about it?
So right now for coaches, I know Rich and John are a big sign of it. If people want to volunteer to coach, I'm pretty sure they would love it, because they have a lot on their plate. I forgot last time I talked to Rich how many people he said he's coaching. His calendar is always booked. But QRFvet.org is where they can connect, also where they can donate. We're trying to make it quick and easy. We used to be QRFFit.com, but then we changed it due to the branding and people not finding it as easily. So we're saying, okay, QRFvet.org. That's where they can, get anything. If they want to become an athlete, if they want help, they need to contact us. There's a contact button on there. Everything is there, and that's what we kind of wanted it. And it tells you about us, about Rich, John, all of our board members, who they are, what they did, So QRFvet.org is just the best place to go for us right now. And then we'll be at events. Anybody that's in Arizona, we'll be at the DC Slam. We'll have a booth there. And our goal is to have booths at other places like the Ragnar events, things like that. But I think our big one that's coming up is the DC Slam. They're going to have a lot of participants. I think there's over 500 athletes as of right now. And there's going to be so many. I think it's at ASU. So it's going to be a huge turnout, and we'll be there, and we'll probably do some giveaways and things like that. And like I said, just get on QRFvet.org and contact us. It's that easy.
It's awesome, man. I've been talking to John about putting on a strategic veteran / QRF Fit event here in Florida somewhere. I know he's going to be in Tampa at the end of next month, I believe, he's got some crazy competition schedule going on right now to shut up all the haters and the fitness influencers out there. And I love what he's doing. So can't wait to see how that pushes QRF Fit forward and all of that, man. Dude, thank you so much for your time today, for being here, sharing your story and what QRF Fit is all about. And thanks for letting me be a participant in your program. It's been amazing. I made some lifelong connections in John as a coach and already told him when the program ends for me, I'd like to pay him to continue to make me not have to think about what workouts I need to do every day.
And that's what's great. That's what's so great about it. Because, everybody can go to Muscle and Fitness or all these, they have these blueprint workouts to do, but no one to get workouts tailored to you. The price it's ridiculous. So hearing it's great to get that feedback on a podcast. You're not expecting it, but I'm glad because we're happy about that, and that's what we want. That's the end goal. The end state is what you're having, and that's amazing.
Yeah, man. It's just like that lifelong connection to fitness. It's not that one size fits all, like you said, Muscle and Fitness, standard generic workout. It is tailored to me, and it's got a personal element to it. So, it's easier to just keep up with it because even though it was mostly body weight stuff till now, and I'm getting ready to transition over to the gym. And I think John's super excited about that because, that's his world, right? Like he loves the strength training and the strongman stuff. And so for me, transitioning over to that, I can't wait to see the creativity that comes out in him and what he gives me to do, and probably a lot of exercises I've never done. So, that's why I love your program. It's so unique. So I couldn't wait to have you on and have this conversation and get this in front of, my audience and others. Hopefully it'll float around out there on the internet and bring you more business. And, dude, just so happy you were here, man. And I really appreciate your time. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Christopher Phillips from QRF Fit.
All right. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, brother. Everybody help us get this in front of 1 million veterans before I turn 40 on May 9th, 2025. Lofty goal, large community out there, 19.6 million veterans in the country. So if any community can get this in front of everybody, it's the veteran community. And I think it's needed. So, share this, like this, rate this, review this, download this, spam it everywhere you can and help us achieve that goal. And we'll see you next time, ladies and gentlemen. Take care. That's our show, and I'm truly thankful you've joined us at The Strategic Veteran. If our conversation today sparked curiosity or if you're ready to elevate your game, I'm here to help. Visit thestrategicveteran.com for exclusive show notes and resources or to book a coaching session directly with me. Take a moment to subscribe to our podcast and share your review. Your support makes all the difference. For more insights and daily strategies, let's connect on LinkedIn and keep the conversation going. Remember, this isn't just a podcast, it's your strategic advantage in action. Until our next rendezvous, stay bold and continue the mission.